Perkins from Astrology, and we're going to do a part two of the astrology of 2025. If you missed part one, make sure to check that out. It's a good one. And I'm not like the other astrologers that are going aspect by aspect. Really, what I'm concerned with is the energy that we're all going to be working with collectively and personally. And as you know, this is a time of a lot of shift and change, and we're going to see it out in the world. But there's not as much that we can do about what we see out there. But what we can do is really work on ourselves, on seeing ourselves more clearly, on taking responsibility for our actions and for our reactions and growing. And that's what 2025 is all about. It is about showing that we have been doing the work and that we can now take what we've learned and put it into action. We can use those tools, and using the tools isn't easy because it's very easy to be lulled back into the old version of ourselves, into our old conditioning, and falling back asleep. And then we wake up again, and that's the nature of being a human and doing a spiritual awakening, is that we fall back asleep, we wake back up. We fall back asleep, we wake back up. And that's why we call it a practice. We have to practice really bringing awareness into our situations and into our relationships so that we can do better and be better. So I'm going to compare this to the family lineage. And we all know that we get certain things passed down to us through the lineage that we didn't experience ourselves, but that has really created the family culture that our grandparents acted out and our parents acted out. And then we, of course, have the choice to act those same things out. But if you are doing an awakening and you're bringing more consciousness into what's happening, which is what we're trying to get to on the planet, is more consciousness. We want to do it differently. We want to not be perpetuating the same limitations that were passed down to us. And that is a big piece of what we are all doing right now, is we're working really hard not to perpetuate the same stuff, the same icky, traumatic, limiting things. So this is what I teach in all of my teachings. I go through all of the sun signs in great detail in past episodes. I'm also currently doing an asteroid series. I'm going through all of these archetypes and explaining to you how they show up in your life, the shadow side that might be impacting you, and how to move from the shadow to the lighter side, where we're actually using the empowered version of these archetypes. I'm also releasing an astrological forecast every week as well, talking about what's happening in the sky. So make sure, if you're listening, to pass this information on to friends that might like to watch this show or listen on the podcast platform. Like, subscribe, do all the stuff that helps get this information out there, because I think that we can all stand to be in the awakening cycle instead of in the sleepiness cycle. So this talk was prompted because I had a very dear friend die this past week, and I hadn't had much contact with him for the last several years. But what really struck me was how all of my mutual friends, we've all come together and we've been sharing really fun memories of this person and sharing how much this person impacted all of us in really unique ways. And it got me thinking that as we are working with the astrology of 2025, having come from the astrology of the past 15 years, as Pluto was moving through the sign of Capricorn since late 2008, Pluto has now changed signs into Aquarius. Now, one of the things that Pluto does is it pulls open the curtains and it helps us to see the truth. So over the past 15 years, hopefully you have been doing some of this work where you're looking at your governing systems, both outside, but more primarily inside. And you're looking at how you are ruling your kingdom. Are you a kind and benevolent ruler? Are you a tyrant? Are you apathetic? Like, how are you taking responsibility for the things in your life and the way that you're showing up? Hopefully you're getting to see how you show up in ways that are shadowy in ways that aren't so great, in conditioned ways, defensive ways, and then how you can really work to show up in ways that are more in integrity with who you are. And so, as I was thinking about my friend, thinking, this was a person who had their very big personal flaws, as we all do, and yet his impact on all of us, and I can only assume that his impact on most of the people in his life was one of positivity. He had an amazing sense of humor. He made all of us laugh. He made all of us be able to see ourselves and our own flaws through a lens of humor. I remember learning from him how to make fun of myself in a really lighthearted way that felt good, which was really different from how I would condemn myself in the past for those same things. And so as we're moving into 2025, Pluto now in Aquarius, and we are looking less at the internal government and more at my internal government's impact on the collective, on the people around me. So I want you to think about this, because as I was preparing for this talk, I realized I could go through all 12 of the zodiac signs and really give some good shadow information. You can think about this in terms of yourself as a younger person, a younger, less evolved version. You can also think of the people in your life right now that kind of personify or that sort of act out some of these shadow elements. And I think what I'm going to share next, where we can all agree that, like, we don't want that. We don't want to be that. We don't want to have that be our impact, our legacy on the world. And if you are recognizing pieces of yourself in what I'm going to share, then I would say this is a indication of where you want to give some of your kindness, your love, your compassion, your attention so that you can shift, right? This isn't about us pulling out our inner critic and saying, wow, you suck, but about saying, oh, I need to do a little bit of work here. I recognize some of this stuff in myself, and I don't really want to be this person. So I'm talking about the people in your life that impact negatively. And we all have these people where we feel that we have to walk on eggshells, we have to make them happy, we have to prioritize them, we don't want to make them mad, we don't want them to explode on us. So we all have those people. So if we just start with Aries, and again, be looking at, like, do I do some of this stuff? And who do I see in my life that does this? Because we're going to use these examples as a way to really get in and identify what it is that I'm talking about, with the intention of, can I improve this? Can I either improve this in my own self, or can I relate to these people that act this out differently? And remember, I'm teaching astrology not through the lens of your specific sun sign. We each have every single one of these archetypes in our chart, and we will act them out in different ways. So you might be a Virgo and have an Aries Mars. So you're not just going to relate to the Virgo, especially when you are being stressful to other people. But it doesn't necessarily mean that your Mars sign is acting out. It could be your Saturn sign, which is judging everybody. It could be your Venus sign, which holds everybody to really high standards. So as I'm going through these signs, just listen with an ear for the thing. Oh my God, I do that thing. I'm just using astrology as the organizing tool so that you can begin to get your brain accustomed to the shadow side of all of these archetypes, because it's a great way of understanding your own shadow nature. And you have all 12 of the shadow natures. And in fact, you have more than that, because once we get into nodes and asteroids and all of that, I mean, we are all multifaceted. And that's part of why it is so fascinating to self-discover and to explore ourselves through this lens. So when we look at the sign of Aries and we say, what's the shadow? Well, are you angry? Are you explosive? Are you demanding? Are you narcissistic? Is it always about you? Do you expect everybody to bow to your wishes? Do you go to battle at the slightest thing? And if so, is that working for you? So when it comes to Taurus, this would be the parts of you that are immovable, that are stubborn, that always need things to be your way, that are lazy, don't want to lift a finger to do anything or help anybody else. And if you see these pieces of yourself, is it working for you? Gemini, that part of you that never stops talking, that doesn't want to listen to anybody, that sweeps into a room and just sucks all of the energy out because your mental activity is so fierce and so dramatic that you pull other people into it. Cancer, the part of you that can be moody, that can be withholding. You get your feelings hurt and you make sure everybody knows it. You reject people because you feel that they don't love you enough. Leo, the part of you that is very self-centered. It's all about you. You want all the attention. You get snarky. You get sarcastic. You cut people down, maybe because your self-confidence isn't feeling so strong. Virgo, you're controlling. Everything has to be your way. Everything has to be exactly right, but only according to your standards. You show up and you help people, but then you get mad because they don't give you what you wanted in return. You might be a bit of a martyr. Libra, you gossip. You talk trash about people behind their back. You flirt with people and lead them on, and then you drop them, you ghost them, or you give yourself away and you never say no to people. And then you're resentful about the fact that they take advantage of you never saying no. Scorpio is that part of you that may hold on to old resentments, that may score keep, that is always angry, and that is always volatile, ready and willing to bite somebody's head off. Sagittarius, the part of you that's a big know-it-all, that never wants to listen to anybody else. You know it all. You've been all the places. You have a better story than them, and you get bored easily. You can't settle down. You can't just be present with somebody. Capricorn is that part of you that is harsh and critical and judgmental and always looking down your nose at people because they don't have as much as you. They aren't as wealthy as you. They don't drive as nice of a car. They aren't working in a career that is up to your standards. Aquarius may find you as somebody that hates people, can't stand to be around the general public, is always looking at people as if they are stupid and undependable. Maybe it's the part of you that always has to push against the rules, doesn't ever want to do things that other people want to do, doesn't ever want to agree that other people maybe know more than you do. And Pisces would be that part of you that slides into your addictive tendencies, that numbs out, that dissociates, that just leaves without explanation, that gets involved in your fear and tries to bring everybody else into your fear. So that's a nutshell. Those are just a few sentences about every single shadow sign, but I wouldn't be surprised if you recognize a little bit of yourself in all of those. I know that I do. And so the point of all of this is to look at, like, how often am I acting out? How often am I showing up to situations with those shadows? And we have to forgive ourselves because we develop those shadows as defenses against things that were difficult for us in youth and even sometimes in past lives. We don't even remember that. But the point of this growth is to say, what is the impact that I want to have on people? What is my legacy? What do I want people to say about me when I die? Do I want them to be like, oh God, they were a lot of work? Or, oh, wow, they never took responsibility for anything, right? So just think about that. And of course, this isn't about us showing up and being perfect for everybody to love and appreciate and adore us. But this is about looking around our lives and saying, what do I want to create here? Who do I want to be? Because as Pluto moves into Aquarius, that's when we start to bring our gifts to the table of the collective. So if we look at Pluto and Aquarius as if it is the potluck, we've all been invited to the potluck. Well, Pluto and Capricorn is where we've been preparing. We've been perfecting our recipes. We've been understanding more about where do we want to grocery shop? How do we want to prepare this? We've made a lot of mistakes. We've thrown a lot of our dishes away, but we've learned a lot. And now we're bringing those dishes to the potluck. So this is bringing your gifts and skills, bringing your empathy, bringing your connections, bringing the things that are going to help move forward. You're bringing that to the table. Do you want to bring a potluck dish that tastes bad? Do you want to show up empty-handed? Do you want to show up to the potluck and immediately throw a fit? So this is a silly example, but we're perfecting and honing what we bring. And we are each unique. We each bring so many gifts. We've been tapping into those gifts. But in order to understand our gifts, we have to understand our shadows and we have to work through them. Because many of us, because of our conditioning, we don't automatically recognize our gifts. It is much easier to feel like, oh, I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. I am not attractive enough or appealing enough, because that's what I was conditioned to believe. And that's what the marketers of the world would like for us to continue to believe. But as we come closer to the realization that none of that really matters, we of course are good enough and smart enough and attractive and appealing enough. We're just unique. We may not look and be and act like everybody else, but we are unique and special, and we bring those gifts to the table. We have to be able to see that. And it's this process. We've all been going through this process for our whole lives, but we're reaching a pinnacle right now where there's more awakening on the planet. There are still plenty of people that are in deep sleep, but you, as somebody that's been doing your personal work, as somebody that has been willing to look at some of your shortcomings, some of your gifts, you are going to be a way shower. And part of that is being able to look back with pride, happiness, excitement, contentedness at your impact, especially from now moving forward. What is your impact going to be? How are people going to receive you? Are you going to leave conversations and situations, leaving people feeling like, wow, that person really touched me. That person really helped me. Or are you going to leave and people say, that person abandoned me. That person didn't listen to me. That person wasn't good to me. That person hurt my feelings. That person rejected me. Like, we don't want to do that. And if we've done that in the past, that's okay. We're going to let water go under the bridge here. But we know moving forward that there is a lot of room for improvement. And so that's what I want to leave you with today. I want to leave you with some of these questions to ask yourself. What is my impact? What do I wish for it to be moving forward? And how am I going to make that happen? All right, I hope this was helpful.